two.
비판적 사고 기술이란 무엇을 말하나요? 매우 쉽게 설명 좀 해주세요.
Critical thinking skills are about the process of engaging students' intellect in addition to their memory. Much of what has gone on traditionally in schooling is remembering. And in many cases, that's what makes gifted kids stand out because they have an incredible short-term and long-term memory capacity. You want to say, how do you know that? Why do you know that? And it's that prodigious memory that often helps make them academically successful in a school setting where the right answer is important. Critical thinking goes beyond just remembering, and it asks the students to think, to engage in processes whereby they're discerning things. They're looking to see, are your assumptions valid? Is this fact or is this opinion? Where is your evidence? What's the cost benefit in this? We could do this, but should we do this? These are the kinds of things that a teacher can ask a student to respond to that's more than just the who, what, when, where. And it's even more than the how, which is related to the skill, but it really gets at the questions of why should we do this and what if we do this? What if is the fundamental premise of the scientific method. It's all about saying we have this variable and we can adjust it and adapt it, and we've got to control what if we play classical music to my tomato plants? And what if we play hard rock to my tomato plants? And what if we play no music at all to a control plant and see if there's a difference in their growth? The what if is a method of inquiry that's based on critical thinking. And you examine evidence, you look for inferences, and using inductive and deductive reasoning, you engage the student's ability to not just remember and spout back what you as the teacher have said, but to puzzle over tough issues. In the United States, our Declaration of Independence says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, life, if life is an unalienable right, what do you think of a society that permits capital punishment? These are questions that the teacher doesn't tell the answer to. The teacher asks the students to think and respond and then defend their response. That's the essence of critical thinking.
If we have lots of students or children with critical thinking skills, I think they can annoy lots of teachers and parents.
You're so right. That is true. It is not an accident. I mean, you're so on target with that point, and we can look historically. Socrates, in his method, taught his students how to be critical thinkers, and it made his rivals so angry because of the questions he asked that they couldn't answer well, that they had him put to death. And there are many parents whose preference is, I will tell you what the truth is. Don't ask, I will tell you, and then you will tell me back what the truth is. And they don't want schools having students question authority, question tradition, question practices. They want students who will stick to the worldview that they have and stay with that. They don't want good questioning. They don't want critical thinking. But to me, a well-educated student can only be one that has learned how to ask questions and how to deal with conflicting points of view, and to deal with the idea of global warming as being caused by human activity and what the research says, or whether the research says it's a naturally cyclical process and it is something we are just going through as a phase, and looking to what the research says rather than accepting, I said it's this way and you have to accept that.
Just one question emerged again. Like, there are certain groups of people or society, they have to follow rules without any critical thinking. So it's like army.
In the military,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So do they have to stop critical thinking skills, or because they are in a very, very dangerous situations? So.
You're absolutely right. It's a survival skill.
Right.
There, however, the notion is the critical thinking has been done by the leadership, who know as much information as possible, and having analyzed the data, and they have exercised the critical thinking, they've decided to tell the infantry what to do and to tell the artillery what to do. And the job of the artillery is to recognize, I don't have all the information, but my superiors do, and this is what I should do, up to a point. And then you have people who are tyrants and would exercise genocide using their army. Should that member of the army question, and at what point do you say, this violates my moral code? I've analyzed this, and there's no reason for me to take the life of this other person. And at that point, there is, as a human being, the responsibility to exercise critical thinking at times.
선생님들이 수업 중에 아이들의 비판적 사고를 키우기 위해서 할 수 있는 방법들이 있으면 소개해 주세요.
The outcome of education relates to three major things: knowledge, skills, and understanding. The knowledge is the acquisition of factual information, bits and bytes of data that are a matter of fact, like the color spectrum. And there's a sequence that's always the same. It's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And an educated person knows these things. In history, in literature, in mathematics, there are certain things that are known. The problem is that at a given time, education was seen as the process of dispensing knowledge. Educators were the gatekeepers of knowledge. We've got to go beyond that, because now kids have access to knowledge at their fingertips. They don't have to wait for the teacher to tell them. They can Google it. That personal digital device that they have gives them access to every bit of knowledge in the world. We're no longer in the knowledge business. It's still important to guide kids that they need that knowledge in domains. That's part of what an educated person is, but we need to spend less time on the acquisition of that knowledge. There are also skills, how to do things, titration in chemistry, grammatic analysis in language, or literary analysis in poetry, solving for x in an algebraic equation. There are procedures that an educated person needs to know how to do. But both of these are subordinate to understanding, and understanding makes meaning of it. And when the kids are saying, why do we have to know this? What hasn't happened is helping them make connections to the real world. Because once you understand something, it's yours for life. You can acquire facts and then forget them. But once you understand something, it's yours for life. You never get over that. You never forget it. And working towards that understanding is the function and purpose of critical thinking. So you're going beyond, as I mentioned before. You're not just doing the who, what, when, where, but you're looking at why. Why has the influence of the explorers coming from Europe to the New World had such a negative impact on the indigenous populations here? Should we celebrate Columbus Day? Maybe not. Let's talk about that and examine these things so that they really understand why some people would really like to see Columbus Day not celebrated, because it had such a negative impact on some, but it was of such benefit to others. And students begin to see what I used to tell my own students: the more you know you don't know, because you've acquired a whole new level of understanding. Well, and we're wrestling with that right now in this country with the tragedy in Charleston and the symbol of the Confederate flag. Why do some people feel it represents heritage and not hate? That's how they really feel. But others see it as blatant a racist symbol as a swastika and want to see it taken down. And the problem is, these people talk to each other and these people talk to each other. Right. They never come together. And I think in the classroom, in school, that's where we lay the foundation for people to be able to talk with each other about these different perspectives. Again, it's about not just remembering the facts, but it's about using the facts and thinking about them to come to a new level of awareness.
박사님, 소크라테스 방법이 뭐예요? 학교와 가정에서 선생님과 부모님이 소크라테스 방법을 어떻게 쓸 수 있는지 좀 설명해 주세요.
Teaching using the Socratic method has always been my greatest passion in teaching, whether working with students in elementary or high school or university students or adults. It's the most incredible methodology for engaging people in thinking and not remembering. The model that Socrates immortalized in his time in ancient Greece, where his assertion was, I only know that I know nothing. He didn't have confidence enough in anything he knew to tell someone this is so. So his approach was to ask questions of his students, and by asking those questions, drawing from them their best understanding. And so you have Socrates, who taught Plato, and Plato who taught Aristotle, and Aristotle who taught Alexander the Great. And that kind of teacher lineage is incredibly powerful. That's why parents need to seek out great teachers for their children. But the Socratic method is where the individual who is the nominal leader, I put that in quotation marks, the leader or the teacher in the room stops being, as Roger Taylor says, stops being the sage on the stage and starts being the guide on the side by asking a question and then never answering it. And the question asked is one to which there is not a simple right answer. It's not a matter of fact. It's not, in what year did the French Revolution occur? The question was, were those who were rebelling against the crown more guilty or less guilty than the monarchy in the things that they did that were reprehensible? It's asking, not telling. It's also built around a text of some kind that the students are sharing. They're not just talking about what they think or feel. They're really looking at a writing source, either literary or historical, scientific, but it's something that they're all sharing. Here's the information. Now, what is said here and what does it mean? And we're trying to figure out what the author or the writers or the scientist's meaning is in saying that this is the case. And do we really think that it's so? Do you agree with Anne Frank at the end of her book when she says, in general, I think most people are good after what she went through? And then what about Machiavelli? He says people are for the most part bad and do to other people before they can do to you. Is that the way to be successful as a leader? You read and then you share, but you're talking about the text, not just what you think in your own, what you've come to the conclusion about. And that's how students' perspectives are broadened and they begin to look at other points of view, other ideas. Because the goal of Socratic seminar teaching is not about acquisition of facts, but it's about the exploration of ideas, even controversial ideas.
So text can include pictures and photos.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things to do is use Escher prints. That clearly is any work of human endeavor can be the source of a seminar when you're looking for what is the meaning inherent in this. That there may not be a law in your state that requires identification and services for gifted students. And in that case, your parents may need some support and some help, and you may need some resources and opportunities.